Niels Högel is a name that sends shivers down the spines of many in the medical and legal communities, and for a chilling reason. Högel is a former nurse from Germany who gained notoriety as one of the most prolific serial killers in the country's history. His heinous crimes, characterized by the systematic murder of patients under his care, exposed a shocking breach of trust in the healthcare system and raised numerous questions about the mechanisms in place to prevent such atrocities. Niels Högel was born on December 30th, 1976, in Wilhelmshaven, a small coastal town in Germany. His upbringing seemed ordinary, marked by a loving family and a relatively unremarkable childhood. He attended local schools and displayed no overt signs of abnormal behavior during his formative years. In pursuit of a career in healthcare, Högel enrolled in a vocational training program to become a nurse. This choice, one that typically symbolizes care and compassion, would eventually become the facade behind which he hid his gruesome actions. Högel completed his training and began working as a nurse in various healthcare facilities across Germany, a career that would span more than a decade. It was during his time working at the Oldenburg Hospital, from 1999 to 2002, that suspicions first arose regarding Högel's conduct. Unexplained deaths and cardiac arrests of patients under his care were noted at an unusually high rate. Colleagues and supervisors couldn't ignore the alarming pattern, but concrete evidence remained elusive. Högel's seemingly calm demeanor and ability to avoid suspicion for years illustrate the difficulty of detecting healthcare serial killers. Patients and their families trust medical professionals implicitly, making it hard to imagine that a nurse could be deliberately harming those in their care. The first significant breakthrough in the case came in 2005 when Högel was caught in the act by a co-worker while administering a non-prescribed medication to a patient. This incident led to a criminal investigation and eventually Högel's arrest. However, the extent of his crimes was still largely unknown. As authorities began to piece together the evidence against Högel, a more horrifying picture emerged. The nurse confessed to intentionally administering lethal doses of medication to patients, causing their deaths. He claimed to have done this to experience the thrill of resuscitating them, a shocking and deeply disturbing motivation that defied comprehension. The scope of Högel's crimes was staggering. He was found guilty of killing at least 85 patients between 2000 and 2005, although the true number may never be known. These victims ranged in age from 34 to 96, and their deaths were frequently attributed to natural causes or underlying health conditions, further complicating the investigation. Högel's method of murder was consistent. He would administer a drug, often a cardiovascular medication, which caused cardiac arrest. Then, he would rush to the scene, attempting to resuscitate the patient and thereby placing himself at the center of the life and death drama he craved. Sometimes, his attempts were successful, and the patient would survive, but more often, they did not. Högel's trial, which began in 2019, was a complex and emotionally charged affair. Families of the victims had to relive their losses, and the healthcare system had to confront its failure to detect and prevent Högel's actions earlier. In June 2019, Niels Högel was convicted of 85 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison. This sentence was in addition to a previous conviction in 2015 for the murder of 2 patients, for which he was already serving a life sentence. The verdict marked the end of a long and painful legal process, but it did little to provide closure to the families of his victims. The case of Niels Högel raises several important questions and concerns, not only about the individual perpetrator, but also about the systems in place to safeguard patients in healthcare facilities. Högel's ability to operate undetected for so long underscores the implicit trust society places in healthcare professionals. Patients and their families assume that those responsible for their care have their best interests at heart. The case has shaken this trust to its core, leaving many people with a lingering sense of unease. The Högel case revealed systemic failures within healthcare institutions. There were missed opportunities to investigate suspicious deaths, and whistleblowers who raised concerns were often ignored or silenced. This points to a need for improved oversight, accountability, and reporting mechanisms within the healthcare sector. Högel's actions also pose ethical dilemmas for the medical community. Healthcare professionals must balance their duty to patients with their own psychological needs and desires.